Welcome to North Country Commerce, a business and community service of the Plattsburgh North Country Chamber of Commerce. I'm Gary Douglas, president of the Chamber, and every couple of weeks we try to bring you a new episode of this program, offering you information on things that are happening in the business community here in the North Country, services that are available to the business community, or just upcoming events sometimes, things that the Chamber is involved in that are meant to promote business and, in this case, tourism here in our region. Lake Champlain certainly is a major feature of any tourism promotion efforts up here, whether you're directly on the lake or not. If you want to talk about the two most important natural features up here that are the reasons that visitors come here, it's the Adirondack Mountains certainly on the one hand, and Lake Champlain certainly on the other hand. And as a tourism promotion agency, the Chamber is the officially designated tourism promotion agency for Clinton County, but also by the state of New York for the Lake Champlain area. Very actively engaged, as you know from past segments, in trying to bring more visitors here and promote tourism and business here. And so trying to do that and promote awareness of the lake and all of the things there are to do in connection with the lake is an important part of what our Visitors and Convention Bureau does here at the Chamber. And certainly events are part of that, because what events can do isn't even so much, I'd like to point out, isn't even just so much the people that come to an event, the day of the event, but it's what those events very often can do to create that image and reinforce that image that you're trying to promote, so that people will be aware of that event, and the photographs and the reporting of it and stories about it will make people want to come and find out more about it. And that segues right into where we're headed, because we have two guests here with us to tell us about a brand new event that's just on the horizon here, the first annual Lake Champlain Antique and Classic Boat Show that's going to be in Plattsburgh, and it's being planned by the Champlain Shores Visitors and Convention Bureau here at the Chamber. We have with us two guests, David Mailer from Malone, New York, who calls himself a wooden boater, and we'll ask him in a bit what that's all about. What is a wooden boater? He doesn't look too wooden. He looks very animated, actually. But we'll find out more about that. He's a member of the committee and working on this event. And Carolyn Harding, who you've all seen before, director of the Champlain Shores Visitors and Convention Bureau, who's also, of course, very involved in this event. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
Carolyn.
Yes, sir.
When and where is this event I just mentioned happening?
Well, thanks to the cooperation of the newly renovated Plattsburgh Boat Basin here in Plattsburgh downtown, it will be held there on September the 6th, the Saturday, September 6th, from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. along the docks, and with the Naked Turtle, the new restaurant there, as the headquarters. And we're very excited about it, and so are the folks at the marina.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is actually, I alluded to the importance of events. This is really just one of a number of events that are kind of sprouting up, and that we certainly want to encourage, that are on the lake along the whole Champlain Shores area of Clinton and Essex counties now, isn't it?
Oh, yes, sir. As a matter of fact, we just helped to support the boat parade in Rouse's Point, which is the Dick Gaines Memorial Boat Parade. The events that go along the shoreline, like the Mayor's Cup, we always support. Anything that promotes that shoreline, we're very, very much a part of.
Mm-hmm.
Always.
And it has an impact on the whole region.
Oh,
Because again, the more we reinforce that image, even if it's an event in Rouse's Point or Westport or Plattsburgh, it isn't just supporting that community. We're getting attention and focusing on the history and the image of the lake, which is going to have spill-offs for the whole region. That's really what it's all about.
Absolutely. And that's why we work with the folks in Essex County, and we also are working with folks in Vermont that are along the shoreline of Lake Champlain, because we know that lake doesn't, it might have an imaginary line down the middle, but none of us really care about that. We want to promote this lake. So this all goes into this goal of ours to help promote Lake Champlain.
Now, when folks come there September 6th, and they're going to come by the thousands, I know, all of our viewers out there are going to want to come and see what this first event's going to be. What are they going to find there? What's going to be going on?
Oh golly. Well, of course, the focal point are some absolutely gorgeous old boats. Beautiful old boats. I'm going to let David, who is the gentleman that has the expertise, describe those to you. But we hope it's going to be an event that will be fun for the whole family. We hope to have some static displays on the shoreline, some booths and so on. I believe we're going to have T-shirts available, so that hopefully it's going to be an event the weekend after Labor Day, to kind of be a capstone on the summer holidays.
Now, there is going to be a small charge.
Yes, sir. We're going to have a program that will describe these interesting boats, and it will be a very nominal charge for that program, which in turn will get you on the dock so that you can literally go up and talk to the owners of these boats and ask them about the boats and so forth.
Now, David,
Mm-hmm.
are you people as nuts about your boats as people are about antique cars, and are people like me are about their other kinds of antiques? I'm sure they are.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Tell us
It's a-
about your hobby and what
Well, it's-
what some of the interesting kinds of boats people might see there.
Well, in many cases, it's a family hobby because many of the family members get involved in getting the boats prepared or restoring the boats and such. And some of the hobbyists are enjoying restoration of the boats and finding them and getting them back running again. Most people use their boats a great deal. It's not just something to put in the barn or put in the garage or put in the marina to look at. It's a hobby where people use them. And there's the Lake Champlain area is very steeped, of course, in historic maritime history. It was the transportation mode for years and years before railroads came along or automobiles or anything else to get up and down the lake. Many major battles, of course, historic battles were fought on the lake. So boats are very, very important to this part of the country. And in the late 1900s, excuse me, the people began to get into boating from a recreational standpoint. It started out, of course, with sailing and such, and then came along some yachts, and there were some gorgeous, great big steam yachts on this lake. A few of them in the 100-foot area, people who came and summered up on Lake Champlain, and they got into other types of boats also, mostly over on the Vermont side. And as the boats became more affordable, engines became available, and one of the companies that started recreational boating was based right here in Plattsburgh, New York, a company called Lozier.
Mm-hmm.
And their original factory is still standing as part of the Georgia Pacific group of buildings down there. And they started out in the late, just about 1901 or 1902, were on the market for a few years. They also built a product called the Lozier car out of New York City. But the Lozier boats were very popular up here, and quite a few of those have been preserved. And hopefully we're going to have at least one or two of the Lozier boats here on the at the show. There's a few running on the lake right now, so that should be very interesting.
That'd be great. What period were they making boats in?
From about 1900 to 1910,
Mm-hmm.
we're still doing research and such. There's a person who has written a book on Lozier boats also, so we're beginning to come up with this information, which is very, very interesting as to how this area got started in recreational boating.
Mm-hmm.
Then, of course, there were the Chris Crafts and the Garwoods and the Centuries, and there were some other boats that were also locally built here on the lake. And a number of people in those days built their own wooden boats, or put the engines in them and used them for leisure. The early days, they were the launches, and then came the speed boats and such. And it really evolved. And of course, today, recreational boating is a very strong part of the commerce in this part of the country.
Absolutely. In fact, we're connected by canal, both north and south, which is something we always stress in terms of promoting tourism. It's one of those opportunities. You talk about boating as an opportunity to bring people into the area. It's those connections that do that. It isn't just people that trailer in boats, although certainly people do that, particularly smaller boats and people that are fishing and so on. But people with the big yachts and so on can all come in here by canal, by Champlain Canal at the south end, and all the way up to the St. Lawrence, popping up and down through the north end, which I'm assuming is going to give us some opportunity to really bring in some boats from out of the area as well.
We hope so. The registrations are coming in very well. There's some very interesting boats, and there are a number of antique boat shows around the country. There's some very active groups and clubs and such that have shows. But this particular one, we may have some boats that haven't been seen on the lake before, come down through the Richelieu from Sorel. Of course, I'm sure that people have trailer the boats in from Montreal and such for this show. Should be very interesting, very diverse show.
Now, if there's some viewers out there, and I hope there may be a few that may have a boat and may want to participate and don't know about it yet, how can someone get their boat in the show?
Very
Caroline.
easily. We have registration forms. It's only $10 for the boat displayer, the exhibitor. And they can call us here at the Chamber, 518-563-1000, and we'd be happy to send them the information immediately. We're working with local hotels, even as we speak, to have some special offers for folks who want to stay overnight locally. I think it will be a very worthwhile show, especially for those who've never been on the lake before with their boat.
Now, they're all going to be wood, I understand.
No.
No.
I thought that too.
Okay.
No. Because
So it is open more broadly than just that.
Yes,
Or
it's...
Well,
Explain
yes.
the classic versus
what
the...
sort of boats will be there, or for people that have boats out there, what sort of boats would the show be open to?
Well, there's a real controversy. Of course, there are plastic boats out there, which are, of course, the majority of them today. But this is more of a group of people who've collected the wooden boats and like the finish on them. Now, there are steel boats that were built in the very early days called Mullins and Steelcraft. And we're really accepting all of the various types of boats, but up to about 1969 is the break-off point. And unless people are entering some reproduction boats, or a number of people have gone out, and because an old wooden craft is in such shape that it can't be safely put back together, they're copied, or they're called replicas. And because wood is wood, unless you've got a very keen eye, it's very hard to tell if it's a replica or it's one of the original boats. And there have been there are a number of the original boats running that have also had replicas made of them. Some of them right down Lake George, New York. There's a very fine boat called the Hacker, or Hacker Craft, and they've been very successfully copied. But right up here again in Plattsburgh, we have an original Hacker Craft owned by a person who's very involved in antique boating. It's in gorgeous shape, and is 30 some odd feet long, and when you watch that out in the water on the lake, it's really a very beautiful sight.
I assume that'll be here?
We hope so.
I hope so. Good. Good. We just had a boat here actually recently too that was, you want to talk about a replica.
Yes, that was the most famous replica we've ever had on Lake Champlain. The Nina was here in June, and it is considered to be the best reproduction. It's a caravel, which was a type of sailing ship used in Columbus's time, and this was a reproduction of his favorite caravel, the Nina. And it was mind-boggling. I don't know if any of you came down and went on board the Nina when it was at the same place that this boat show will be held, but you step on board that deck and see how small it is and realize that all those men got on board that boat where the animals were kept below decks. They couldn't even sleep below decks. They had to sleep on the open deck and take off from Portugal and come all the way across the ocean. It was mind-boggling. But we hope that there were some other beautiful old boats built around the turn of the century, before the 30s, in Quebec. And we've got our fingers crossed. I saw one of them that's considered very, very famous. It's been in the same family since 1927, a Canadian family, and it's absolutely magnificent. So we're hoping we're going to have many ships like that, boats, excuse me. You corrected me before. That I think everybody will love seeing, just the way, even though you're not going to sail it yourself, but there are a lot of folks who love to see what was in the old days. And by the way, speaking of that, to make it even more fun, some of the folks who've already signed up, I'm telling them they have to dress the year that their boat was made. Because I thought that would add a little bit of color and fun for all of us. I can tell you that the crew on the shore is going to be dressed in old clothes.
It's just not the power boats, of course. There's wonderful canoes and sailboats and kayaks and the paddle boats and the rowed boats. Then we get into the power boats and the cruisers or runabouts. There's many, many different types that appeal to many different people. One of the interesting things with these wooden boats, again, is many people are using them today. It's not a horribly expensive hobby. A good sound 22-foot utility. Now, may not be as fast as some of the new boats with big V8 engines in them, but they're very comfortable out on the lake. They're a very dry boat, and restored some of those boats are in the $15,000 to $18,000 range, and you can pick them up a lot less than that and work on them for a few years and really have something that you're very, very proud of after doing all the work and getting the family involved and maybe scraping off the old paint and varnish and another another person in the family may be interested in the engines and such. So it makes a good combination. And then you get into the upholstery, and it's
That's where Mom comes in? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, sure. Yeah. And the lake has got a lot of tradition besides the historic boating as leisure and recreational boating. Plattsburgh, of course, was sort of the headquarters for many cruisers back in the 40s and 50s. If you went down to the old Dock and Coal boat basin, there were many very fine boats here that people had. And people have really enjoyed the Lake Champlain. You get out on the lake and there's many places to go. It's not like a small little lake or a little pond where an awful lot of people do boating these days. And there's many protected islands and coves and everything, and it's a wonderful place for recreational boating. There's also the fishing aspect and the water skiing aspect and all of the other ones, but boating on this lake is one of the best lakes in the country for boating.
Sure is.
And then we had people always talk about racing and such, and back in the 30s and 40s, there were a group of people, both on the New York side and on the Vermont side, who really enjoyed boat racing on Sunday afternoons. And back in those days, before television and everything else, people looked for many things to do on weekends. So car racing and boat racing and airplane racing and all of these sorts of things really brought a lot of people in. And we had some very famous boats racing on this lake. And it was a gentleman's sport, if you will. We had a number of 33-foot Garwoods. Now, Mr. Garwood was the guy who won all the big boat races around Detroit in the 20s and such, and he kept building bigger boats and putting V-12 aircraft engines into them and all of these sorts of things. And we had copies of those boats, actual Garwoods. They weren't copies, they were regular Garwoods, 33-footers, running on this lake. And there's a few of them there with their original engines, and we're hoping to attract those people also. I don't know with those boats if we could ever get them to go racing again, but it would be very interesting. And you go along to some of the old marinas and you poke around in the corners and such, and there are still some of these boats that are sitting around waiting for somebody to come along and have some fun and restore them.
Now, for the people taking part with boats, is this just a kind of a meet and display, or is there any competition, any prizes or anything planned? Or
yes, there is no running competition. I'm sure that the people will take them out and do a parade because it's very interesting to watch them out in the water. But there will be a static display. They'll all be in the boat basin in the water. And there is judging as to finish and originality and all of these sorts of things, very similar to car show judging and such. And there are trophies and awards that are given, and people enjoy going. It's a very friendly atmosphere. Everybody knows each other, and everybody always has another boat they're working in their garage or their barn on, hoping that it'll be brought out the next year. There was a boat down in Port Henry that used to be part of that boat racing that I talked about. And we talk about all the high-performance boats that are out on the lake today with big V8 engines and all sorts of horsepower and very high speeds. But going back to the heritage of recreational boating and such on this lake, in 1916 there was a family over south of Burlington, Vermont that went out and commissioned a twin-engine 33-foot boat that would do 45 miles an hour. Now, we're talking about 1916, and even today when you get out on the lake, 45 miles an hour is a pretty good speed. And our lake gets a little rough from time to time, and that can be a pretty bouncy, choppy, almost uncomfortable ride. But this was a 1916 boat that was a tunnel boat, if you will. We hear about tunnel boats today. It was called a Hickman Sea Sled. And that boat laid for years and years at a marina south of Plattsburgh and just got in a terrible state of disrepair and rotten and all of these sort of things. And finally a gentleman from Florida said, "That's just the boat I want." And he came up here and put it on a trailer and hauled it off to Tallahassee, Florida. And for the last 5 years has been in the process of restoring this boat back to its original condition. And it's gone out and done all of the research on it and everything. And I don't think that boat will be here this year. He's working very hard and diligently on it, but I'd love to see that boat back up here at the show in the next couple of years. And to, again, we're talking about 1916 with twin engines in it, and a very unorthodox sort of hull, which is, if somebody's familiar with Boston whalers, it's sort of in that configuration, but 33 foot long.
Wow.
You know, that's something, one of the members of our committee, by the way, which is very active, Peter Knox is our chairman, and he was not able to be with us today. But Bill Rowe is a boat dealer and has been a sailor himself and a lover of this lake all his life. And one of the things Bill said to me a while back, and I think this is going to help too, is there are an awful lot of sailors and boaters who don't realize that it's so easy to get into Lake Champlain, and you can literally sail and motor on this lake for weeks and not see the same port twice. And that there are a lot of big boats, large boats, that would have no problem on this lake. And so that's going to be another thing that hopefully we can get across to the enthusiasts, that it's very easy to come in and sail and motor on Lake Champlain.
I'm sure you're going to have a boat in this show.
I hope so.
Which one? What are we going to find
well,
out?
Which one? Okay.
Well, we'll have to figure that out.
Well, tell us about your collection. How many do you have?
I have a few. In various states of, you can't keep them all running all the time. You're always, that's part of, some people enjoy being in the water with their boats. Other people enjoy working on them and refinishing them and buying and selling and trading them. It's all part of the hobby. So that's one of the hobbies I'm involved in. And
what's your pride and joy? You must have one.
Right now it's a 1941 Chris Craft, 22-footer that was sold by Crescent Bay Marina, the Dusos, up in Saranac Lake in 1941, and I have the original hull card out of the Chris Craft archives, which identified the dealer that sold the boat, which was up at Saranac Lake. And I went and sat down and spoke with the dealer, and they kept all of their records.
Wow.
And he says, sure, we'll go back. And he pulled out where he bought the boat from Chris Craft, and he sold it to a car dealer down in Crown Point, New York, the Chrysler dealer down there, a gentleman by the name of Strong. And so the boat went down there, and Mr. Strong had ordered the boat with all sorts of special equipment and everything on it. And so the boat wound up down in Crown Point. And after the war, the ownership gets a little bit fuzzy, but it wound up on the St. Lawrence in Fort Covington, New York, outside of Malone. The story goes a beer salesman bought it to entertain his customers, and it sat up in a marina up there. And then a farmer with a large family who had a camp over on Chateauguay Lake bought it from the beer salesman. And the boat was used on Chateauguay Lake for a while, and then they wanted a smaller, faster boat for water skiing. So they put the boat up in their boathouse, and one of my friends told me, oh, there's this real old boat in a boathouse up on Chateauguay Lake. You've got to go take a look at it. And I took a look at it, and it hadn't been moved or run for probably 15 years. So I went out and traded for that boat and brought it home, and it started a restoration process on that. So that's the story on that boat. And going into these museums, we've got some great museums in this part of the country for antique boats also. You've got the Adirondack Museum up in Blue Mountain Lake. Over in Clayton, New York on the Thousand Islands, you have the Antique Boat Museum, and they've probably got close to 100 wonderful boats in that museum over there. And then you have the Lake Champlain Maritime Museum down in Basin Harbor outside of Virgins. And they've got a lot of boats that have to do with the various naval battles and such that were fought on the lake, and commercial and back into it. And then over in Shelburne, you had the Shelburne Museum, which has a Ticonderoga. That's right. Which was certainly a great part of recreational boating and the history of the lake and the maritime
We're not going to be able to get that here, though.
I don't think so.
Love to get the Philadelphia here.
Yes. Well, Philadelphia's sitting down in
it floats, doesn't it?
Well, Philadelphia is in Washington,
Oh, did they
D.C.
take it
at
to Washington?
in Smithsonian. So right out of
So we-
our fine lake, and not too
Yeah.
far from where we're sitting, was the gunboat Philadelphia, and that's in the Smithsonian, and it's on. It's not one of those things tucked
it on
away in a
wall?
room.
No.
It's right on display all the time. It's one of the permanent display items.
Well, but we've had two news
Yes.
stories, each of which have gotten national attention just this year so far, of finds out there in the lake that
Right.
that tie right into the naval and boating history of this lake. The anchor
Right, and Benedict
and,
Arnold's.
and the recent discovery of the ship with the cannon.
Benedict Arnold's
Yep,
ship,
yep.
which is very exciting.
Mm-hmm. And we recently had a Champy sighting.
Oh, who?
This last week there was a Champy
You're
sighting.
kidding.
So Champy might turn up at this show too, you know.
That's
A
right.
lot of nostalgia. You probably sunk a few of these through the years, you know.
Oh, he's friendly.
He's shy.
A little lunch. I haven't eaten one of those in 20 years. So you never know. The Juniper tour boat also is located down there by the Plattsburgh boat basin, and I assume they'll be operating that day. Any special
Yes.
plans? Or certainly,
Yeah.
I'm sure their
Frank,
regular trip will be
Frank
underway.
Pabst, Captain Pabst, is helping us on this committee. He has an antique boat, by the way. His boat is 50 years old, as I understand it. It's just been repainted, they tell me, and Frank is going to help us out with probably some historic cruising during the daytime during the boat show, so that there will be things for the families to do. We'll have the naked turtle there, of course, and I'm hoping we'll have some of our wonderful local volunteers that will keep the kids amused, like the clowns and things like that. So we want to make it a good family afternoon.
Mm-hmm. So before the summer is fully passed, get a trip out on the lake, build that into your day, and visit the boat show and have lunch, and you can just combine a whole lot of different things. And of course, downtown Plattsburgh is right next door too, within
That's
walking
right.
distance.
And the farmers
And,
market is working with us on this.
Farmers
together.
market will be going on there, and other things going on downtown. If you haven't been downtown Plattsburgh in a while, you're going to be surprised how up and coming things are there. So you plan a whole day around this.
You know what else, Gary? There are some of the folks that have already spoken to us about offering a ride in an authentic wooden boat. You know, a short little cruise in one of these older boats, which should be exciting. Wonderful photo opportunity during the whole day.
So tell us again, time, place, details.
The Saturday after Labor Day, September the 6th, from 10 a.m. in the morning until 4 in the afternoon at the Plattsburgh Boat Basin Marina, Dock Street, Plattsburgh. You can come by boat too, by the way.
That's right. That's right. If you got out there, you want to come up by your boat, come up for the day that way too. So
We have lots of folks helping us, including another marina further on up the lake. So we hope it's going to be a very exciting show.
if you were to give people one quick reason why they should come and what they'll get out of it, what would it be?
They're going to enjoy the afternoon. It's
Absolutely.
going to be a great day.
I know I'm looking forward to it. So there you have it, a whole new event, but one really tied to the history of Lake Champlain, but also reinforcing its image, but providing a great afternoon to see some great boats and get out there on the lake perhaps, and just have one good day before we lose summer. As summer
don't
will
say
almost be gone at that point, but then our beautiful fall comes right behind. So we'll be right at the cusp of those two events. So be there, and we look forward to seeing you all there. And as always, stay tuned to future segments of North Country Commerce, and call us anytime for more information on this event or other activities of the Chamber at 563-1000. Thank you.